So you're seeing the call. You're seeing a couple of calls. I call them the twin calls, a phrase I coined several years ago to describe two beautiful women who called me constantly. One of the calls is to defund the police, and the other call is to abolish the police. Now, I believe defund the police is sort of growing in popularity, whereas abolish the police is still around, and you're going to see it a lot, but believe me, it's not going to catch on. So, with defund the police, that is something that I absolutely believe in. That is what you would call a minimum demand. So there are two kinds of demands. Two kinds. There is minimum demands and maximum demands. Minimum demands are the immediate demands that you're making upon the state to effect some sort of reform. Maximum demands are the kind of demands that you're making upon the government which they cannot fulfill in a revolutionary situation, right? Like an abolition of the army, replacing it with a people's militia, whatever. Defund the police. I'm not going to spend as much time on this. I think it's a good idea. I found out, listen, I'm a Jew. I'm a money guy. Not good with it or fond of it in any way, but some sort of natural instincts towards it. When I found out that the LAPD was 50% about to be 50% of fucking LA's general fund, get the fuck out of here. That's incredible. And so I think defund the police, if done, and I will say I do like that most of the actual organized calls for this that I've seen have said defund the police, put the money in social services. And now the way budgets work, that is a possibility. I mean, budgets work different from city to city.
Yeah, that's to me is like a very like key thing to stress, and it doesn't make its way into the slogan, which is unfortunate. But
it's
like
not very pithy.
I know, because it's like, okay, you don't want to advocate for more austerity, right? Because it's important to note that the states and the municipalities are fucked because of COVID, budget wise. So it's like, no, you don't want to advocate for austerity, but you want to advocate for a shift in priorities.
So it's not like you're like, let's defund the police and stop these taxes, which, I mean, thankfully you can't. I mean, you'd have to do like, again, it differs from place to place, but like in San Francisco, it's a very complicated budget, all these fucking set-asides. However, it is possible. I will say a lot of people are going to have to put on their little reading glasses and figure out some line items to X out. But yeah, I think if a movement sort of emerges from this, that in one of the main points of it is to defund the police, I think I do have optimism that will be, people aren't just going to be like, defund the police, take the money away, whatever. I feel like that people will want to match it too. I mean, I know in Chicago, which is one of the main cities that this was coming out of, especially with the No Cop Academy thing, et cetera, that they were asking for the city to, or pressuring the city to put that money in social services. The call to abolish the police, though. Let me get to that. So you might be thinking, Brace, don't you want to fucking abolish the police? Of course I want to abolish the police. I want to abolish the police and replace it with my coworkers. I'm not even kidding about not these two, my old coworkers. Although these two I would give administrative positions sort of at the head so I could have some semblance of control over the force. Anyways, if you think about police, a lot of people are like, well, we can have a society about police. Wrong. Police didn't just like, no one in fucking like 16, I don't know when they came up with America, 1776, 1612 Project, whatever. No, those guys weren't just like, hey, listen to this fucking great idea came up with. Police. No. Police came about in the emergence of the state, baby. When in the fucking primitive man, some guys figured out how to do fucking different jobs. The advent of class society brought the rise of the police, because the way class society works is that there is a ruling class, and the ruling class has a segment of the population that is separate from the rest of the general population, that is armed and carries out its will. So the way that you see it right now, or the way that it is in your society, if you listen to this in any Western country, any fucking country in the world, the police force of your country exists because there is a ruling class. Now, you cannot get rid of that. You may change its form. You may change the way it looks or the way it talks or the way it calls itself. There will be police. Now, Lenin lays this out very clearly in State and Revolution. Even a fucking idiot like me can read it. But the police, I just want to stress, police are a reality in every class society because they enforce class rule. If there was no police, if there was no, and again, if you don't want to call them police, bobbies, whatever, if there was no segment of the population that was separate from the general population and armed, then you could just overthrow the government. There would be no problem, right? The ruling class wouldn't have any way to enforce its will. And by police, I mean police, prisons, army, etc. Armed soldiers, for lack of a better word. I mean, actually, there's not lack of a better word. I just couldn't think of one. And so abolish the police. I will say a lot of these things, I looked at this fucking critical resistance flyer that's like, this is the difference between police abolition and police like reformism. It's all reformism. You're not going to abolish the police. Now, I will say we get to a revolutionary situation. I'm like, yeah, let's abolish the police and replace it with mental health NGOs because fucking ice those guys, no problem. But I'm just telling you, it's not going to happen in a class society. I'll tell you, once we get to people are like socialism, no classes. Wrong. Socialism has a ruling class. It is just the working class. Now, the difference between, and again, sorry guys, I'm almost done. The difference between socialist police and capitalist police is socialist police is the segment of the population that is armed represents for the first time in history a ruling class that is the broadest class in society. Now, if you want to go complete abolition of police, you're like, oh, I want abolition of police. I can't get it. Why can't I get it? I'll tell you how you get it, brother. You become a communist and you work towards the abolition of all class societies. Because I'll tell you what, when socialism reaches the higher stage, we get to communism, no fucking classes anymore, no police. Bam.